You know, I often distinguish and say, I don't make figure sculpture, I make body sculpture. I've often in my practice worked, I always say I work with very classical themes. I use the body, and I quite like using a material like bronze, which is sort of saturated, if you like, with kind of quite sort of conservative classical readings. And I think both those things, the use of the figure or the body and a material like bronze, sets up a kind of interesting challenge for me, is how do I work in a contemporary sense with that sort of subject matter and those materials, but bring them into conversation now, you know, challenge them a little bit and disrupt them a little bit. So there's, you know, I'm always drawn when you ask the question about the range of materials. I mean, really I'm an ideas-based artist, so I work with an idea and then I choose the mediums that suit the idea. So I'm not attached to any particular medium. I mean, I guess I started with photography because I'd come out of performance art, and photography and video were simply used as documentary tools. With the video, for example, in Carapace, I mean, that was nowhere near, that wasn't really that hard to do, except that the bronze back weighs about 12 kilo or something. So, you know, there was some weight involved, but even more so because when you cast in bronze from a figure, the bronze process creates a certain shrinkage. So it's like about 10%. So that, even though that's a cast of my back, it's slightly smaller than my actual back. So it was more when I was doing Carapace video that there was the weight, but there was also trying to balance it on my own back. And so I wanted the movements to sort of look cautious and uncertain. And none of that's contrived. You know, I'm not sort of being theatrical about it. Like I was just, they put it on my back and then I'm like, how far can I get up? Can I sort of lift myself up quite high? Can I put one leg out? You know, so it was all just about testing. And the funny thing is, this is the second video I shot. Sorry, this is the first video I shot, and then I looked at it and I was a bit disconcerted by it, and we reshot it. But the second video is more conservative. I don't lift myself, and so I went back in the end to the first video where I could feel my own uncertainty in it. Because the thing is, 12 kilos of bronze, if it slipped down onto my neck or it fell off me, I could have sort of hurt myself, basically. So, I mean, I'm not trying to sort of make a video that's that stressful in terms of people looking at it or me performing in it, but it just needed to sit on the edge of being a bit uncomfortable and for people to watch that. And my impression just at the opening and talking to people is they got that feeling of uncertainty. And I guess unlike Somos, which is these two bronze complete static figures, in the video in Carapace, I also wanted to create this kind of amalgam of a partially bronze body with a very fleshy body, so that I'm kind of metamorphosing between a real person and a kind of cast of that person. What was also interesting to me was there's a sort of uncanny relationship between the metal, which is hard and cold, but the fact that it can look quite soft because the object it's been cast from is soft. And I thought it's not so noticeable in the back, but I think in Somos that's very evident because it feels like a body. You know, I often distinguish and say, I don't make figure sculpture, I make body sculpture. And there's a big difference in that because a figure is very sort of, often, you know, it's an idealised form that's made, you know, in clay or whatever. And the fact that I cast directly from myself and just the endurance of it and the fact, you know, you can't even sort of stand up straight and hold all your muscles, as it were, you know, you just, because you're there for so long. I like that idea that somehow that sculpture looks both hard and soft in a way. I mean, even these backs, you know, depending on the patina, but some of them, like the one that's the raw bronze that just has a kind of lacquer on it, you can actually see the texture of the skin. So, you know, the silicon moulding process is amazing. It's literally like a second skin. Well, it's funny, when I made that work, I actually loved touching it myself. Like there's just something, it's very smooth, but because of the spine, you want to touch it, you know. And so I guess that was my first thought. The other thought because, you know, when you touch bronze, it's cold. Well, it takes up the temperature of the room it's in. I mean, if you had it out in the sun, it'd feel warm. So it sort of absorbs its surroundings at a temperature level. But mostly when we touch bronze inside like this in a room, it's quite cold to the touch. So I sort of like this idea that if I could heat up one of the backs and people were invited to touch it, there would be this kind of uncanny feeling that it was kind of slightly warm. And I guess also I had always thought about that in relation to the video, because I'm wearing the back in the video and I'm moving. And so it was also like this sense of, in the way that I said before, the video combines metal and flesh. I like this idea that the kind of associational thing of the bronze back on the wall carries a residue of my body by still being warm, like a kind of body temperature. So it was just that simple observation. I thought, oh, I'd really love to work out how to do that. And so that was an opportunity in this show, just to have that particular back isolated in conversation with the video. And then the red glow is really just like a kind of visual cue that something different's going on with that back. And then, you know, we have the little text to say, touch me. And people have been really responsive to that. One, because I think people quite like, or often want to touch sculpture but are not allowed. But then, you know, a lot of bronze sculptures and figure sculptures that are public sculptures, they carry the rubbings of where people touch them all the time. I mean, when you're in Europe and you look at a lot of, you know, depictions of Christ or whatever, you know, on buildings and churches and so on, they're often, the feet are really rubbed almost to a skin colour, you know, where people just keep touching and it wears the patina away. So I just like that idea, and that I could invite people to touch the spine on the back. And eventually, if you kept doing that, it would get shinier and shinier on the protruding bits of the spine. So yeah, it was just this simple sort of almost visceral connection between the video and the sculpture, and creating some sort of dialogue around that.